Mr. Victor. You're welcome to the Arbitration Pitch.
It's my pleasure, Lauraine. Thank you.
You're most welcome. So for those who might not know Mr. Victor, he's the Secretary General of KIAC, that's Kigali International Arbitration Center. And Rwanda is doing so well with international arbitration. I'd like him to tell us about his journey, how you got into international arbitration.
Thank you, Lauraine. How I came to the arbitration network. So, first of all, as I say, I'm Victor Mugabe. I'm a lawyer. So, I started actually in a career of the legal practice with the Rwanda Bar Association after my studies. But before that, I worked for the Ministry of Justice of Rwanda. So now I was in a secretariat that was in charge of strategizing how to position Rwanda as a growing country as far as human rights, business, and rule of law are concerned. So in that secretariat, I came across someone from the World Bank that was advising the government on how the country can really economically move by introducing the new areas of dispute resolution. And that's when for the first time I heard about arbitration, because in my law studies, I didn't really study arbitration, mediation, or ADR. So I came across the terminology of arbitration when I was in my work with the Ministry of Justice. So from that very period, I was very much interested in knowing what is alternative dispute resolution, what is arbitration. So luckily, that consultant continued to support the government of Rwanda and the private sector Federation of Rwanda on how arbitration can really function in addition to other investment and business reform that Rwanda was undertaking. And that's how the consultant, the private sector federation came up with establishing an international arbitration center. And but before that, it required that the government of Rwanda adopt and ratify the New York Convention on the Enforcement and Recognition of Foreign Arbitral Awards. So Rwanda did it in 2008 in the beginning, and immediately after the ratification of the New York Convention, Rwanda adopted the Arbitration Act in 2008, and already the journey to embrace arbitration was also starting. And in 2010 now, the arbitration center was legally established by the private sector. And in 2012 now, an arbitral institution now was launched, the Kigali International Arbitration Center. And then when I joined the Bar Association now, I started attending the arbitration courses, the conferences, and now how I started embracing the arbitration practice. Then in I served in the Bar Association for almost 9 years. But in 2021, there was an opportunity from the Arbitration Center to hire a new manager, registrar or secretary general. This is how now I joined the Arbitration Center. And from that period, now I purely entered into the practice of arbitration with the center from January 2021 until to date. So it's an area that is very interesting, and I love it. I'm enjoying it. So far, I'm still learning, definitely, because arbitration practice is really keeping learning experiences, attend the conferences like these ones, interacting with people like you and other experts locally, internationally. So it's an area that is very interesting, and generally in Rwanda, it's growing, relatively growing, because we are now having some young people really embracing arbitration, and we find that the future of arbitration in our country is brighter than it is now. Thank you.
That's really great. People are not too sure of why they should be attending conferences, because sometimes conferences are expensive to attend, and there's so many other considerations that have to be made. So, and I know you are organizing a conference soon. So what will you tell people about attending conferences? Why should I attend a conference in another country, and many for that matter?
Yeah, first of all, I would say that people would think that conferences, seminars, workshops are really part of the capacity building approaches. And for the big conferences like this one that is taking place here in Lusaka, Zambia, it's an opportunity to network. And as you may know, ADL practice, arbitration practice, it's about networking. So when you come here and we interact with high-profile practitioners and different experiences from different jurisdictions, is a way of getting the knowledge and skills of what happens elsewhere and interact with people. So, and another thing that people should know is that learning, it's an investment. We should not be very worried about the cost of attending arbitration, the cost of attending the conferences like this, the cost of traveling, because that is part of the investment. We have to open our mind and think out of the box, think about what is happening in our own jurisdiction. So we may sit in Rwanda or in Ghana and say, oh, the things are perfect in our country. Arbitration is perfect. No, that's not the way we should think. We need also to go and see what happens elsewhere, where you interact with practitioners from different cultures, different legal traditions, different beliefs, so, and hear from them and create those kind of networks. And I would really recommend, especially the young practitioners, to attend the conference. It's an approach, it's a strategy to meet high-profile people that can support in mentorship and even in training or even in further studies, because this area of practice is really made of high-profile, well-educated professor practitioners that really are willing to support the young generation in ADR and arbitration. So I would recommend people, especially the young lawyers, young professionals, really to invest in attending conferences, because it's really a great opportunity for them to network.
Right.
Yeah.
You speak about mentorship, and it's difficult sometimes to approach mentors because some people are generally shy or they are not sure of what to say. What's the best way to approach a mentor and get the best out of a mentor?
First of all, the best way to reach out to mentors is, first of all, to get integrated in the arbitration community. Let me say, for example, if there is an arbitration center like in Rwanda or in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Zambia, in Kenya, just get connected with the centers, okay? Then from the centers, we'll start with the internship, okay? And from the internship, you get connected with the practitioners that are working on the cases. And from the centers also, you may even get recommended by the centers, because we, as KIAC, as Kigali International Arbitration Center, we usually recommend young lawyers, young practitioners, aspiring arbitration practitioners to prominent arbitrators that are on our panel. And when you find like a promising young arbitration practitioner that is really passionate in the practice of arbitration, that person can be recommended by the center. So it means it may be difficult to find a young student, a graduate from law schools to get a good mentor. But when you get connected with the centers or even the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, the branches, you get connected with them. And from those institutions, you can get connected and recommended to the mentors. Because what I can assure you is that we have very willing mentors in different jurisdictions, being in Africa, being in Europe, being elsewhere, that are willing to support the young generation. Because that is the legacy that the arbitration community want to leave behind. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Victor. This is going to be our final question. I'd like you to look into the camera and speak to young upcoming arbitrators. What can they do to ensure that they do well in the arbitration practice?
First of all, what I would like to recommend as a first thing to do is really capacity building. So capacity building in arbitration can take different forms. During the formal training, the centers and the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, the branch in different countries, they offer world-class arbitration training. And it's good when it is really, the training program are provided with young practitioners. Get that passion. If you have the passion, you can really build yourself and get prepared for the future practice of arbitration. Secondly is to work on the, ethics. Capacity building is good, but ethics, because arbitration is about trust and credibility. So that's very important. As you learn for arbitration, you also have to work with your trust and credibility, because for any person to be appointed, that person has to reflect the credibility. You have to be well equipped, first of all. You develop the expertise, but also you work on your on ethics. Secondly, create networks. As I told you, networking is very key in arbitration. Don't stay home. Please move. Leave Ghana, leave Rwanda. Go and see what happens in Kenya, in Europe, in Nigeria, in Ghana. Another thing is to work on the languages abilities. So in Rwanda, we are really lucky, because most practitioners in Rwanda, we do practice in French and English. Mm-hmm. So we have been recommending the young people that are aspiring to practice arbitration at least to be able to speak and use at least 2 international languages. It might be like English, no, okay, English, but also French.
Right.
You know, when you have like one of the leading arbitration institutions like ICC in Paris, we are in a French, community. Try to speak French a little bit in addition to English. So don't be shy. So the young people should really learn more than one international language, because it's really a pathway to fully integrate the legal, the arbitration practice. So I'll talk about capacity building, networking, and membership to arbitration institution. Please get registered on the panel of arbitrators, or even get registered with the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, because it's a strong network when you get access to information on the arbitration. So I think that's what I can recommend, but also for the young people, try to access mentorship. We have so far in Africa so many chartered with Institute of Arbitrators, so many institutional arbitration who are ready to support the young people, young lawyers, young professionals, to embrace either through membership. And I can tell you that all the centers in Africa are ready to support, as far as there is commitment and willingness from the young generation to practice arbitration. We are ready to support. So this is, I think, what I can recommend. And this is what we did in Rwanda. I can tell you that in 2011, there were no single Rwanda qualified arbitration practitioner. But now we are more than 100 that are active. Why? Because most of them have already invested. Some of them are on the level of fellowship, membership, and now we are even sponsoring young students, especially to become associates of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. So I think those are the recommendations that I may provide for the young, but I can tell you that the future of arbitration really relies on the young generations, because they are flexible to change the mindset, and from litigation mindset to ADR mindset. So, but also the institutions and senior people have that obligations to support young people so that they can leave that legacy behind. Thank you.
Thank you. We are so grateful, and we know that you continue to support the younger generation to excel in arbitration. Thank you so much, and do have a nice day.
It was my pleasure, Lauraine.
Thank you.
Thank you.